Hello, welcome to this video. In this video, we'll see a demo on brushed points. Brushed points allows the user to select data points on the plot. Also, it returns the rows corresponding to the data that are selected by the brush. Let me explain you what I'm talking about. So I've got a ggplot here. It's using the data from MTCars dataset. It's a scatter plot with mpg miles per gallon versus horsepower HP. And as you can see, if I get the cursor over the plot, it converts or it enables the brush. And now I can select the data points I want. Look what happens when I select the data point. So I've got these three data points under the brush are selected by the brush, and with brushed points I get the rows corresponding to these three data points. Let us take other data points. So let me take these four data points, and you can see that the brushed points returns the four rows corresponding to these data points. Now you may be wondering, how come this is useful? Yes, this is useful because based on your use case, you can select the data points, get this data and process this further. One of the use case could be as simple as subsetting the data based on the selected point, and this is what is the outcome of the subset data. The other use case could be, say for example, imagine that these four data points are outliers and I want to delete these data points from my data set. What I could do is I select these data points and delete them from the data set interactively. So pretty much we have an interactive plot which allows us to select the data points, and then we can code the logic in such a way that we can process the rows which are returned from the selection. Okay, we'll start with loading the required packages. So I've got Shiny and ggplot2. ggplot2 because we are plotting the scatter plot using ggplot. Then I've got some heading, and to call out, we've got a new argument here within plot output. We have brush equals plot underscore brush. Let's talk a little bit about this. What we are saying is brush equals, we are giving a brush ID. Here it is plot underscore brush. Once we give this argument, what happens is it enables the brush over the plot. Also, it sends out the data information, which is nothing but rows of those data points which are under the brush, and sends this information to the server side. At the server side, we can access that information using this brush ID. Then we've got the fluid row where I've got two columns. The first column, or the one which you saw on the left hand side, is the original data set, and the second column, which is a table on the right hand side, is nothing but showing the rows that is returned by the brush. In the server code section, we've got a render plot. This is to get the scatter plot. We have used the MTCars dataset, and the x-axis is miles per gallon and y-axis is HP. Then we are displaying the MTCars dataset. This was on the left hand side of the table, if you recall. Then we have a render table here. This is to display the rows returned by the brush. What we have here is brushed points function. Within that, we are passing the dataset, which is MTCars, and we are defining the brush ID. We are saying brush equals input dollar plot underscore brush. So this is the brush ID, and we are saying input dollar brush ID. So what we are trying to do basically is we are trying to retrieve the information from the brush, which is nothing but the rows corresponding to the data points which are under the brush. If no data points are selected, no rows or 0 rows will be returned. Otherwise, whatever data points are there corresponding to them, the rows will be returned. So if I do a n row, which is number of rows, if no data points are selected, n will be 0. Otherwise, if there are rows or data points selected, what I want us to do, we will simply display the or return the rows. Now there is another argument which we have here. It says all rows equals true. Let's try to use this and see what happens. So if I rerun my code, it still returns the rows. However, we have a new column called selected underscore. It's as false or true. False denotes that the data corresponding to this particular row was not under the brush, and if it is true, that means that data corresponding to this particular row was under the brush. Now how can this help us? This will help us in finding out the row indices. So if I want to know which row number is this, I can use some logic using the selected underscore column and find out the row indices. In the next video, we'll see how to use this column selected underscore to find out the indices for the rows and use it to remove the data points under the brush.